Mourn for the dead, fight for the living, that is our slogan. A slogan which is echoed worldwide on this International Day of Mourning, as workers, their families, and friends gather to remember those who have been killed, suffered disease, or been injured as a result of their work. We gather here today to ask a terrible, terrible question. Is today the day you die at work? Because it is sadly what happens each week in Canada to an average of 20 workers. That's nearly 1,000 Canadian workers a year. Workers who never go home again to their families or to their loved ones, their home, or their friends. They die simply because of their job, and that's not right. Why must we continue to mourn the loss of our sisters and brothers, husbands and wives, mothers, fathers, our sons, our daughters, our friends, and co-workers? They die entirely as a result of preventable incidents, or because of fatal disease caused by exposure to carcinogens in their workplace that could also have been prevented. The reason is simple, because we need far greater prevention methods and enforcement of the existing legislation and regulations. And you are here today because you agree this carnage can no longer be accepted. Chris Charlton, Member of Parliament for Hamilton Mountain, spoke in the House of Commons this week, and this is what she said. There is no such thing as a workplace accident. Every workplace death or injury is preventable. That's why we've had a criminal code amendment in effect since 2004. allowing for the criminal prosecution of employers for workplace injuries and fatalities. She added, it should be straightforward. Kill a worker, go to jail. Yet only 2 provinces have ever laid charges. It's time that governments take measures needed to ensure that police and Crown attorneys treat the sites of workplace injury or fatalities like a crime, because it is. And only by prosecuting to the full extent of the law will we ever achieve the deterrent effect that will lead to safer workplaces. On this day of mourning, I call on all of us who participate in lawmaking to also do our part in ensuring those laws are enforced. And brothers and sisters, that's the political piece, P-I-E-C-E. But there's another piece, P-E-A-C-E. And that's the piece that we are all striving for within ourselves, for our families, co-workers, all workers. The peace that comes with knowing the environment you work in is safe, and that at the end of the day, you can go home. That's what we want for all workers. Sisters and brothers, you have come here because you remember the much loved faces behind the statistics we hear every year. So let's reflect. Let us mourn the loss of our sisters or brothers, husbands, wives, mothers, fathers, our sons, daughters, friends, co-workers that have passed as a result of entirely preventable injuries and illnesses. Let us also remember those who are not included in the numbers because their untimely deaths are not recognized as a workplace fatality. Let us also remember our many co-workers who suffered stress-related illnesses or were victims of violence or bullying in the workplace. Workers who have suffered through situations that took a toll on their minds and bodies. I would also like to recognize the passing of Brother Walter Bauman. Brother Bauman dedicated much of his life to making sure that his sisters and brothers, the professional firefighters of Ontario, had safer and healthier workplaces. Brother Bauman also spent many of his evenings and weekends teaching health and safety for the Labor Studies program and mentoring new activists. It was always his idea to ring the bell after the reading of the names on the day of mourning. I recall him standing at many of these ceremonies wearing his dress uniform, so proud to be a firefighter, so proud to be a health and safety activist, who was able to share so much and work so hard for the good of so many. In memory of Brother Bauman, this evening we will ring the bell and call his name. Also, let us reflect. This International Day of Remembrance, let us remember the 300 garment workers who lost their lives in Bangladesh, and the hundreds and thousands more who were injured, and the 14 workers who died in the explosion of the West Fertilizer Plant in Waco, Texas. 10 of the dead were first responders, and 200 were left with injuries. For those here today who have lost a loved one in a workplace tragedy, I think I speak for all of us when I say thank you for coming here and sharing in our grief and mourning for the dead. The long-lasting impact of one tragic death cannot be underestimated. Our stories are compelling, and the pain of the loss, while tempered over time, never really goes away. When another worker dies, a family loses a loved one, we grieve again. Most of all, we want our loved ones and yours to come home at the end of the day. Thank you for coming each year to recommit yourselves to fighting for the living. It is what restores our hope for the future of workers everywhere. Because we believe that no worker should ever have to ask themselves, is this the day I die at work?
industrial worker to have you gathered here within the council chambers that working men and women built to commemorate this terrible day. May Day we celebrate work, but today we commiserate with those who've lost loved ones. And it's a tragic, tragic story. Also, earlier today, MP Dave Christopherson and I attended the commemoration of the sinking of the tribal destroyer tied to sister ship the Athabascan, and 128 working men lost their lives in that torpedoed ship that night. And these are all people out of the working classes who further sacrifice beyond what they do in the issues that we're discussing today. The working people have also fought our wars and died. I'd like to introduce MP Dave Christopherson, who's here with us. Dave, please stand up. Representing the province, our Minister Ted McMeekin. Ted, where are you? Further provincial representation from MPPs Paul Miller and Monique Taylor. Our councillors, Scott Duvall, Maria Pearson, Brenda Johnson. I see Terry Whitehead here, and did I miss anyone? Our city manager, Chris Murray, has joined us. Chris, there he is. Chief of Police of the City of Hamilton, Chief Lendicare. Chief. And we have representatives from the school board. Ted Simmons is here. Ted, would you stand up? Bob Bono, Robert. Thank you all for being here. The people that we're going to commemorate tonight each had their own story and their own vision and their own dream for their family and their future, and those dreams came to a crushing end. The one that touches me because I know so much about how they do their work are the 3 locomotive engineers who got killed in Burlington. And that was, without getting into the details, that was a preventable accident. And 3 good men lost their lives in the blink of an eye. And then we look at, as Mary mentioned, Bangladesh. The people who own those plants in the third world and other places, they know what the proper procedures would be in terms of workplace safety and the quality of construction. They know that. These are well-educated people. So it brings to mind the old saying, what would you do if you thought you could get away with it? And one of the things you would do is you would imperil your workers because it would save you money. And this is a disgrace. And so that's why everything that we've achieved in our lifetimes as working people had to do with a struggle and a confrontation to get those things done. My family, since my great-grandfather, most of the men and many of the women have been industrial workers at Westinghouse, Firestone, Mercury Mills, Afasco, U.S. Steel, Stelco, and so on. And many were injured in carrying out their duties. We know what the truth is. And of all things, in this day and age, when we're threatened with budgets and deficits and so on, we're putting even more stress and pressure on our workers because they're working longer hours. How many aren't taking the vacations that they rightly deserve, and how much does that further stress the relationships among their families and so on? I almost hate to make this, say these things in front of these young people because I don't want them to be discouraged. So let's do what we need to do so that they can have a better life ahead of them as working people in Canada.
Here, here, here.
Thank you, Mayor. Bringing greetings on behalf of the Hamilton Indian Workers Group is President Jeannie Hunt. Jeannie, please come.
Thank you so much, Mary. Good evening, everyone. I would like to thank Mary for bringing up the fact that we do mourn for those that do not come home with us, and we do fight for those that are still injured and impaired. Now, as you may all know, our workplaces are not perfect. They are not safe, and some of them, we have, fatalities, and you can't just magically make that go away. The Ministry of Labor is not going to step in and say one day, we're going to make everything safe. The WSIB is not going to magically come in and protect all workers. Guys, we have to do this. This is our fight. That's why I'm here. Our group is all injured workers. If we were to sit down and we were to be quiet, we would be telling this province and this whole country that it's okay. It's okay to not allow claims. It's okay to allow employers to get away with having people die on the job. It's not. It's not okay, guys. It's definitely not. It's our fight, and only we can make this change. If enough of us stand up, then maybe the ministry would change the way they look at workplaces, because right now, they are in no position to put any employer in jail. They don't care about that at all. And the WSIB says they can't entice employers to come on board for universal coverage. Well, guys, you're all taxpayers. You're all paying my EI because my employer is not covered by WSIB. Because we have stress at work so high that 15% of us aren't in the workplace. We are trying to recover from stress and from anxiety. And it's not fun being medicated just so that you can go through the day. I would like to ask you that you all wear those ribbons every single day, because one day is not enough to remember those that we have lost. It won't change the fact that people die every day, and it won't change the fact that we get injured every day. Please, if you see anything at your workplace that's not safe, please say something, because you're not just saving yourself, but you're saving your coworkers. And those ribbons, they're made with love. They're made here in Hamilton by hand. And I'll give you a little joke. I don't sew them. I got fired from doing that because I wasn't fast enough. So they're made with love by two of our ladies that work in the office, and we have tons here available, okay? I thank you very much.
Amy's just another worker that lost the job. Our guest speaker for today, our keynote speaker, is Brother Pat Dillon. Pat began his career in the construction industry as an apprentice electrician in 1961 and became a journeyman in 66. Following 18 years of experience in the construction industry, and then he was elected business manager of Local 1005, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. Pat was appointed by the Government of Ontario to serve on Board of Infrastructure Ontario, the appointments of Council for Colleges of Trades, and the Ontario Prevention Council. He also sits on a number of construction industry boards. This month, Pat was presented with the 2013 Philip Diggin Memorial Award in recognition of his contribution to helping injured workers and for advancing prevention, health, and safety in Ontario's workplaces.
Thank you, Mary, and good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I want to thank Mary and the Hamilton District Labor Council for inviting me here to say a few words. I'd also like to thank the Canadian Labor Congress for first moving and then insisting on legislation in Canada to create this National Day of Mourning. As we mark the National Day of Mourning, we have in our thoughts the memories of loved ones whom we've lost to workplace deaths over the years. There are people in this chamber today that have felt and do feel that tragic sense of loss when their loved one did not come home from work. Their sense of loss is forever. Apart from being a sober occasion on which to remember the brothers and sisters we have lost to
workplace injury or disease, April 28th also serves as a call to action. As workers and as leaders representing workers, we must rely on each other to push for better safety standards on all job sites and in all workplaces. We cannot and will not depend solely on the generosity of governments and employers to do what is necessary when it comes to prevention. We all have a role to play in educating one another about workplace safety. This issue goes far beyond politics, as it is people's lives, workers' lives, that are at stake. And I hope that the labor movement, the business community, and governments are mature enough to realize that. Over the years, I have seen governments of different stripes come and go. I have seen legislation evolve. But one thing that stays constant throughout all time is the ability of workers to band together in times of calm and in times of distress, because worker safety is never far off of our radar. Despite some substantial progress on occupational health and safety, we still have workers who are afraid to speak up. We still have employers who intimidate our brothers and sisters, and we need legislation to fix that. We still have immigrant workers who are exploited by an underground economy in which the rules that we have all fought for simply do not apply, and because of almost the intentional lack of enforcement. Last year, there were 29 deaths that were the result of the on-the-job injuries in Ontario. This is completely unacceptable and continues to happen despite countless programs, organizations, and activities designed to prevent such carnage. Education, training, legislation, and enforcement are at the heart of the solution. But so is repetition and cooperation. We must be consistent in repeating our calls for safer workplaces, and we have to reach out to the businesses and government if we are to have any success, because they are as much a part of today's economy as are the workers, and are therefore an integral part of the solution. We can do better. We must do better. Let's work together to make sure that in Canada in the 21st century, men and women are not harmed as a result of practices and situations that are completely preventable. Let's use this occasion today to tell the politicians, the employers, and the general public that our message is one of safety, solidarity, and cooperation, and that we will continue to push for work conditions in every Ontario workplace to ensure that every worker in every Ontario workplace comes home safe and sound at the end of the day. So one might ask, what is it that needs to change to ensure that workers do come home safe at the end of the day? And one of the suggestions that I would make, and I'll give you some evidence for it, is that we have to take the injustice out of the justice system itself. And I'm going to give you an example, a couple of examples of it, but they come together actually. On December 24th, on Christmas Eve, 2009, we had 4 voiceless immigrant workers killed on a construction site in Toronto on the simplest form of construction that exists. The company, in that case, pleaded guilty to criminal negligence in the 4 deaths. The judge, who's responsible for the justice system to see that justice is served, the judge fined that company owner that pleaded to criminal negligence, fined that person $50,000 for each death. So $200,000. So that in itself was totally unacceptable to me, I think, to everybody in this room. But here is something that compares. In the U.S., our neighbors south of the border here. Just in recent times, we had a company that was defrauding the compensation system. So what that really means is they're filling out their paperwork to show that they got a safer track record than what they really do. And they're actually doing that and stealing money then from the compensation system itself. That company owner that was stealing that money went to jail for 6 years. Now think about that. One company kills 4 workers and gets a $200,000 fine, $50,000 apiece. The other guy, same kind of employer, steals some money from the system and goes to jail for 6 years. If that same company had killed 4 workers, probably would not have gone to jail at all. So there is injustice in our system. And we are not going to get that injustice out of the system until we collectively get our acts together and go and force, not ask, go and force government. Put these kinds of statistics squarely in their face that we do need movement here to preserve the lives of the workers. I was heartened when I came in here this afternoon to hear this band from St. Michael's. Congratulations to all, and especially to the beautiful singers. It gives great confidence to me that our future is in good hands with young people like you. But it's up to all of us in this chamber and beyond to make sure that when these little ones get a little bit older and they go off to work, that they can bring that beautiful singing voice home at the end of the workday. So I thank everybody for the opportunity to say a few words. Thank you very much.
And now for something a little nicer, a little more heartwarming. Several months ago, Dan Nolan from The Spectator ran an article with a picture showing how our monument had been hit with graffiti. Anyway, it was devastating, it was heartbreaking to have to look at that. A few days later, I received a call from a gentleman by the name of Brian Hall, and my faith in humanity was restored. I posted the story on Facebook and wrote, "I believe angels walk among us." Brian Hall, owner of Brycam in Oakville, read the story and called my office to say that he would be honored if we would allow him to clean the graffiti off our monument and to apply a coating that would ensure that it would never be damaged again. He donated his time, his material, cleaned the monument, and coated it, so if it does get hit again, it just washes off with cold water. I've invited Brian and his co-worker Paul Maynard from White House Cleaning Specialty to join us tonight, gentlemen. Be recognized.
That we have both signed this on behalf of our council. Perhaps you could read that, Scott.
I want you my glasses back.
Ladies and gentlemen, and I just want to thank Mary for letting us know of this company and Brian, great work that they did and making our monument back to being respectful because of vandalism that happened. And I've never met Brian until today, but when Mary did call me a couple weeks ago, we wanted to make sure that he was recognized in front of the public and with our mayor. So Brian, on behalf of the City Council and all the citizens of Hamilton, we'd like to thank you very kindly for saying this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Mayor. Earlier, the choir sang a song, and in it, the words said, "Life is the greatest gift." And when that gift is from us, like it was with my son. It hurts. And when we see something come along where we want to remember them, and we see it damaged, it cuts right to the core, it cuts right to the heart. And it was an honor to be able to get in touch with Mary and provide the service that we do. So thank you very much, and to all of you, our heart goes out to you. Thank you.
Such kindness. Since the Ontario Occupational Health and Safety Act came into effect in October '79, there have been 11,049 workplace deaths across Ontario, according to the statistics kept by the WSIB. Before that, there had been no official record, however, we know many died. 2 years ago, we had a question put forth to us from a gentleman, Tom Moore. He wanted to know how he could have his grandfather's workplace death recognized on the day of mourning. There's this one compelling story of a family torn apart by tragedy, and Tom is here tonight with his father to tell the story of their loss so many years ago.
Good evening. I'd like to read to you from the article that appeared in the Hamilton Spectator the day after the accident on December 4th, 1947. The headline reads, "Buried beneath several tons of gravel in bin." Buried under several tons of gravel while he was working in a gravel bin on the premises of the Hamilton Builder Supply, Thomas William Moore, aged 50 years, of 126 Evans Street, was suffocated yesterday before fellow employees could effect a rescue. Dr. J.H. Mullen, the chief coroner, is conducting an investigation, and according to police, an inquest will be held. Detective Sergeant Howard Morrow, who with Detective Gerald Reed investigated the tragic pre-Christmas fatality, stated that Mr. Moore had climbed into the bin to try to lose some of the fine gravel in his roofing stone in order that it might pass through an opening into a truck below. While the victim was inside the bin, another employee pulled a drawbar, which released a quantity of gravel into his truck, which is back under the concrete bin. He did not realize anything had happened until he heard Mr. Moore call help about 3 times. And at about the same moment, the victim's feet protruded from the hopper opening. Workmen at the plant reported that there was between 50 and 60 tons of roofing gravel in the bin at the time of the accident. The bin measured 15 feet in length, 12 feet in width, 15 feet deep, and elevated 12 to 15 feet above the ground. To climb into the bin, workmen had to climb a stairway to the top. As soon as the body was recovered, workmen started artificial respiration and were assisted by Harold Slackhammer and Alex Robinson, who reached the scene in charge of the ambulance, Patricia. When Mr. Moore failed to respond, he was removed to the general hospital where Dr. E.T. McFarland pronounced him dead. My father would now like to tell you his recollection of the events that day.
I would like to tell you a little bit about my family. My mother was 42 years old at the time of my father's death. I had 2 older brothers and 2 younger sisters. The oldest was William Thomas Jr., who was 20 and is now deceased. Next was Robert John, who was 18, and he is now deceased. Next was Ronald Stephen, that's me, and I was 16. Next was Elizabeth Ann, she was 14, and she currently lives in Whitby. Last was Sandra Joyce, she was 11 years old and is now deceased. I was working in a bookstore on King Street West after school on a part-time, I was working that day when a phone call came into the store telling me to go to the general hospital right away, as my father had had an accident. I hopped on a streetcar and took the belt line down to General Hospital. I went in and looked around and saw no one I knew, so I went to the information desk and told the lady my name, why I was there, and my father's name, and asked her what she would tell me. She looked at some papers and told me my father was dead. After a few seconds, I asked, is there any other of my family there? She phoned the morgue and said, no. I thanked her and left for home. About 15 minutes walk to the house, and it gave me time to think about what I was going to tell my mother. I had no idea what my mother knew, but thankfully 2 men from the company had come and told my mother that there was an accident, so I was thankful that she knew that much. Two neighbor ladies were asked to come in and sit with my mother so she would not be alone. When I walked in, the 2 neighbors, my mother and my youngest sister were sitting in the living room. They got up right away, and I could tell by the look on their faces they didn't know what I knew. So I told my mom that Dad was dead. My grandfather came over and picked up my mother and my sister and took them to their home. My grandfather was a reverend minister, so he knew what had to be done, and he took charge, and that was good. We had an appointment that night at the photographer's on Victoria Avenue to have a family portrait taken, and that was canceled. My mother went uptown a week before to buy a dress for that occasion, and she did not tell us till later that she bought a black dress. My father wasn't not happy that she bought black. He said, you always wear black. My mother was happy she did not have to go and buy a dress. The inquest was held in the new year, and my brothers and I attended. It was held in the courthouse, and facts were presented to the court. Witnesses were called to testify and be questioned. The jury returned with a verdict. Mr. Moore died of asphyxiation. It was a tragic accident with no one to blame. The jury made recommendations along safety lines, so this accident should not happen again. The family accepted the facts, and we moved on. Thank you very much.
On behalf of my father and all of us in the Moore family who came out and those who couldn't be here today, thank you, Mary, for giving my father the opportunity to share this story. Thank you.
Brothers and sisters, that was December 1947. And April the 14th, 2013, we lost another brother. Similar accident, same kind of thing. We have to stick together, brothers and sisters. We have to change. want to have your father's passing recognized, and tonight we will ring the bell in his name. Please, if you're able, stand and remove your hat. When we ring the bell, call the names, pause for a moment. Brother William Thomas Moore. Brother Michael Robinson. Brother Paul Jackson. Brother Norm Reagan. Brother Winter Schultz. And lastly, Brother Gabriel Pagiano. We'll pause now for a moment's silence. one last brother to recognize before we go, but I wanted his brothers from the professional firefighters to be the ones.
Certainly an honor and privilege for us to join with you this evening, and we're very privileged to have been allowed to ring the bell for one of our fallen brothers, Brother Walter Bowman. Thank you so much.
That concludes the indoor part of our ceremony. We will now meet downstairs in the front lobby and form a procession behind the piper up to the monument where we can lay our wreaths and have a moment of silence there. There are candles and candle shields available downstairs at the front door. So